For the past couple of months, I've been reading about this concept called quiet quitting. And quiet quitting is basically when you become dissatisfied with one or more aspects of your job, rather than quit the job, you just stop going above and beyond, which means you're not coming in early, you're not staying late, you are not trying to help a coworker, or, you are just basically doing just enough not to get fired and stay on the payroll. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, man, quiet quitting happens in relationships all the time. Have you ever noticed that when a relationship is over, it's been over? Like, it's over long before it's officially declared over, because one or both partners have quietly quit, meaning they're no longer being intentional. The energy is not there. The effort is not there. It has just kind of fallen into this basic routine of good morning text. How was your day? Okay, I'll talk to you later. But there's no real engagement. There's no real momentum. There's no real intention to move things forward. It's just like we're both sitting here. And so if you are in a relationship, ask yourself, have you quietly quit? Has your partner quietly quit? Are you both engaging? Are you both intentional? Or is this the slow runway to its inevitable ending?
I will admit, and this is kind of one of those episodes where I'm the ass and I'm just going to admit all the things that I did wrong in the hopes that you don't repeat the mistakes that I made. I can see that I was engaged in what I've seen people call the quiet quitting. And for me, it was the quiet quitting of a marriage. When people use the term we've become roommates, I think that what you're talking about is that you're in a relationship where one of you is quietly quitting. You're doing the bare minimum. Your resentment and griping is building. And for Chris and I, in all of the doing, we lost that deep emotional connection to one another that we had worked so hard to build over the years. And resentment for me had started to really come in. And that emotional connection is what was missing for Chris and I. The love was there underneath it all. But there was this like mid layer that have built up that made us really lose a connection to one another. That brings me to, well, what do you do? How do you get the connection back? There are 6 things that you got to do, in my personal opinion, if both of you are willing to work on it.
When a man says he was blindsided by his divorce, my perspective typically is that his partner was likely quiet quitting their marriage for a long time. We often hear about how women initiate most divorces in heteronormative relationships, and that men can feel really blindsided by the request for a divorce. And what I think has happened in many marriages over a long period of time is that after lots of discourse, specifically about the same thing over and over, and a lack of meaningful change, the woman tends to decide to stop engaging. No longer will she be emotional. No longer will she be asking for more from her partner. No longer will she be looking to them for any sort of meaningful partnership because she's tried, right? Oftentimes we hear about how women are so emotional and they're never satisfied and nobody's happy if mom's not happy, and that they're basically always asking for more from their partners. They're saying, great, you helped me do the dishes, but now can you do it right? Great, you provided me emotional support one time, but can you make sure to be an emotional support partner to me over the course of our marriage? And I think what happens from the male side is typically they are defensive. Men tend to be defensive when their partners come to them asking for any sort of change or engagement level that they're not comfortable with. Not only are they defensive, but sometimes instead of being defensive, they just appease their partner. They say like, yes, I will do that. Yes, I will change. Yes, I love you and I want to do better for you. And then they don't do that. And so after going through that cycle enough times, asking and being met with a yes, but no action, or asking and being met with defensiveness, asking and being dismissed, many women are saying, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to protect my emotions. I'm going to protect my time. They might remain in that marriage for an extended period of time. There might be no fighting. And that's typically what men will say, like, we weren't fighting. Nobody was angry. There was nothing going on. Like, there was no big catalyst for this. And that's usually true. There was no big catalyst. It was just a bunch of little things that added up over time. And she got to a point where she decided, I'm no longer going to pour myself into this. I am now going to protect myself, and I'm going to bide my time, essentially quiet quit until there's an appropriate point where I can actually leave. And I'm not advocating for this by any means. I personally think communication and counseling and things like that are very, very important. But I do think that's a big part of this narrative of being blindsided by divorce. They were blindsided because their partner had no longer been engaging with them in the way they had been historically. And so they seemed happy. But typically somebody doesn't just become more laid back or care less about something when there's been no actual meaningful change. It's not like they just stopped caring about that thing. They've likely just stopped looking to their partner as a safe person to engage with, and not really a partner at all.
I'm sure by now you have all heard about that Twitter post that has recently gone viral. You know, the one with the guy saying that phase where you slowly start hating your girlfriend is crazy. There's, of course, a lot of conversation on this platform about it, saying that this proves how so many men don't even like women. You know, they like the goods, but they don't like women. And I do think this is accurate. But in all fairness, many women reach that phase in relationships or marriage too. As I have said before, marriages die by slow degrees. Relationships do also. Quiet quitting happens as much in relationships and marriage as it does in the workplace. The difference for how it evolves for men and women is, slight. Women quiet quit or when they have already spent far too long in the relationship asking for changes or communicating what they need, to only be met with resistance, negativity, defensiveness, or sometimes things do change for 2 weeks and then it just goes right back to square one. When this is an ongoing pattern, we stop asking, we just kind of give up, we check out, and then eventually we just leave. I think with men, there's often a complacency that sets in. They don't feel the need to be as attentive. They start taking their partner for granted, but they're still very comfortable with the status of being in a relationship or married, the convenience of it all. So they just, do the bare minimum and keep it going until. Or sometimes they know what they're doing. They're sabotaging, hoping their partner gets fed up so that she leaves. And that way he isn't pulling the plug and being the bad guy for giving up a good thing. Have you guys had any experiences with quiet quitting in a relationship or marriage?
How to know if your partner is quiet quitting your relationship. The signs of it can be subtle, but if you can identify them, you can address it. Number 1, loss of intimacy. This can be emotional, physical, as well as just, is your partner still romantic? Number 2, lack of communication. If you don't know any more about what's going on in your partner's inner world. Number 3, more negative interactions with your partner where things seem to be more combative. 4, more secrecy, as in your partner seems to be withholding information from you, which could be due to the fact that they may be trying to resolve their own feelings or not cause or stir up a fight. 5, less presence. This can mean physical presence, as in they're staying late at work a lot, or it could also be emotional presence, as in they're there with you, but they're distracted more. If your partner may be quiet quitting your relationship, it may be important to have a conversation with them. I'll include a format of how you can do this in the caption.
When a man says he was blindsided by his divorce,
let's talk about why men are blindsided. They're blindsided because they haven't ever paid attention. They have never invested and they have never fucking cared. And so when your partner is trying to have uncomfortable conversations with you because there's something, a need that's not being met, right? Don't give a fuck. And when that partner eventually just gets so fucking tired of talking to a brick wall, or talking to someone that pretends like they care, but they don't make any change, they don't make any effort, and they check out and they start working on themselves and their own happiness, what they see is a woman who's happier, who's not having hard conversations with them. And they are so fucking stupid with their heads up their own asses that they think that means that the relationship problems have magically solved themselves. No. That means she's done. Good luck getting her back. It's not going to happen.
When a man says he was blindsided by his divorce, my perspective typically is that
one of the tricks that I've used to get men to understand how much labor they're leaving on their wives and why it's going to lead to conflict or divorce is translating the domestic labor into work terms. Like, Jimmy, look, if you are on a team and you're not pulling your weight, your teammates are not going to be happy. But not only that, you know very well that you might not have that job for a very long time. So if you can get that at work, if you can understand that in the workspace, why is it so hard for you to understand in the domestic sphere, inside your home, especially for a partner? You ain't married to your coworkers, but you're married to your wife. Why is that so hard?
by his divorce, my perspective typically is that his partner was likely quiet quitting.
So it's not about quiet quitting. Usually when you get divorced, because I've been divorced and my lawyer has said men are always in such shock. But it's not that they haven't been told, because when you're asking and you're communicating with your spouse and begging and pleading for what you need, and more than likely it's emotional connection, because that's the way women communicate. We communicate emotionally. So men just take this as nagging, or they're very defensive about it instead of trying to change. After a while, the woman just falls out of love. There's no emotional connection, no back and forth, no getting what she needs. So after a while, she is literally just falling out of love. And then divorce comes into play. You know, you can't just say, hey, I'm thinking about getting a divorce when you're communicating, because at the time you're not thinking about divorce. You're just thinking about, hey, I'm feeling empty. How can I fix this problem? And you're communicating. And when a man does nothing, they just think, oh, she's fine, she's just nagging. It's when she gets quiet is that she has thought about divorce, and that she starts planning. She's planning her leave. So if your woman is not communicating, talking to you about needs, because we're complicated, we have lots of needs, so we should be talking. If they're not talking, oh, they're thinking about leaving. I mean, I just want to put that out there, because men always say, I don't know what happened. Yes, you do. You just didn't listen.
Did your partner quietly quit your marriage? Quiet quitting seems to be the latest workplace trend in corporate America, but now we're seeing it in relationships that end in divorce. Generally speaking, quiet quitting in the workplace is a result of employees not feeling valued by their employer. These employees give up on voicing their concerns because they feel they're not being heard anyways. Then they withdraw emotionally and mentally, but still continue to show up to do the bare minimum to not get fired. In a relationship, this can be a result of someone consistently not having their needs met or feeling like they're not being heard. This is why many people feel blindsided by the divorce and confused on how their partner moved on so quickly, when in reality their partner quietly quit years ago. Some people try to make things work for years before it gets to this point. What do you think? Is quiet quitting becoming a trend in relationships?
Are you or your partner quietly emotionally detaching or quitting from this relationship? I'm going to take you through the signs that this may be happening. Hi, by the way, if you're new here, my name is Paige. I'm a relationship and life coach, so please do follow me if you want to stick around. Okay, signs that you may be consciously, subconsciously, your partner may be consciously or subconsciously quitting, emotionally detaching from this relationship. Number one is if you feel physically present with this person, but mentally you're checked out. You're thinking of other things, other people maybe, and you're not mentally present with this person. You're not emotionally present with this person. Number two is making time for everything else but your partner. It's feeling as if quality time between you two is starting to go down the pecking order in importance. And actually making time for friends, hobbies, work is coming first. Now, I want to note that it is important to have multiple priorities, and you don't need to prioritise your partner or the relationship 100% of the time. We're all allowed to have diversified interests. But if you're finding that quality time with your partner is slipping down the pecking order consistently, then maybe you are emotionally checking out. Next is the intimacy is taking a nosedive. Maybe you just can't be bothered anymore. Maybe you're not really into it anymore. Maybe you dread it. But either way, intimacy is not enjoyable anymore. Next is maybe the future plans that you guys once shared or dreamt of or spoke about now don't feel like they're going to happen, or maybe you don't want them to happen. You're making alternative arrangements in your mind for your future, and it doesn't necessarily include this person. Next, you're feeling like the fight for the relationship has gone. When a conflict happens or a disagreement happens, you kind of just shut down. It's almost like you just can't be bothered. Can't be bothered to fix it, can't be bothered to argue about it. You just shut down and check out. Now, please note that if any of these things are happening and you both want to work on it and get that back, you can. It's what people like me are here for. We're here to help you on that road and see if it can be brought back and whether you both truly want it to be brought back. But also know that it is okay for relationships to run their course and for partnerships to run their course. But either way, if you're in this situation, it's about communicating, making a plan and going from there.
I get why people quiet quit at work. Makes a lot of sense to me. But as a therapist, I don't get why people quiet quit on a relationship. I think if you want to quit a relationship, then you should quit a relationship, or you should engage and try. But just agreeing to stay the course when the course isn't great anyway does not seem like a life strategy to me, or something that's ultimately going to be fulfilling. I realize it's not easy, but quiet quitting isn't either, because over time, we develop regrets.